dear listeners, to the Speak and Flow podcast, where we dive into unique strategies and experiences to help you unlock the power of your voice and help your team achieve maximum potential and flow. Today, I have an experienced HR professional. She is also a leadership coach and board of directors, Kaylee Keil. Hi, Kaylee.
Hello, Melinda. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to jump into our conversation. I just love talking about all things HR because it's all about people. And how do we help people communicate better, become better leaders? So tell me, you've been in the HR world for a while. What is exciting? What are you passionate about? What are you seeing in the HR realm today?
Absolutely. I currently work for the Nimble Group. We are events curators, specifically for human resources, networking, and educational events. And the reason that I really wanted to transition into this type of work is that I'm extremely passionate about the future of work. And truly, that future is now. And uh, every human deserves to have a psychologically safe work environment, a fulfilling work environment. And that is really what we focus on with the events that we curate.
Oh, that is so important. And do you think that with the current administration and some of the DEI initiatives are getting dismantled, do you think that it's gonna be more difficult and challenging to do that?
Absolutely. It is already really showing that that is happening. There is a lot more uncertainty coming from the general workers, the population of our standard workforces are not necessarily looking at their work like we're used to them looking at their work.
Mhm.
And it is much more all encompassing of how they're feeling in life in general.
And how does a group, the Nimble Group support? How does this organization support those who are feeling that way?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have a few events throughout the year that solely focus on human resources professionals, human resources executives, and preparing them, supporting them, giving them some time out,
Yeah.
and that looks like additional resources. That looks like coaching and training in the DEI space, in the leadership space, in the more traditional tactile space of HR. But
Mhm.
we're also really building communities. So common we hear HR is so lonely, and it truly can be,
Mhm.
especially for those that work in an organization where they are an HR department of one. And what we build with our events and continue to build upon afterward are those communities of support for one another. So each of us can truly do what we want in the workforce, and that is to create better workplaces. The future of work is human,
Mhm.
and we really focus on supporting that.
Oh, and I love that. And how do you think that communication ties into the future of work?
Communication really is one of the most, or maybe the most important skill to develop as a leader, and something that really should be developed within emerging leaders. The strategic planning of succession planning all should encompass communication at its core. And the biggest challenge within communication is, or that I see anyway, is the ownership of that communication.
Ownership. Okay. Tell me
A
more.
lot of leaders come into their leadership position because they were really good at doing something.
Mhm.
And the training to become a leader kind of happens almost as a perk once they've been promoted into that leadership position, not necessarily something that they have been developing and that they've really cultivated more strengths in to then become a leader. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of ways that owning leadership really shows up in a positive way. And there are a lot of ways that it is easy to recognize when ownership of communication is not happening.
Oh, interesting. So I mean, going back to what you're saying, most leaders, they know there's certain core aspect of their job, and then they go into a management role, and then suddenly they know the core aspects of their job, but then now and suddenly they're in front of their team, and there's gonna it's a high learning curve, and you have to do it quickly, to ramp up quickly to know how to manage these people and team, which is the core skill in communication. And so are you saying, like, can you share a story? I think you probably had a lot of experiences where people are not doing it well. Can you share a specific story?
Yeah. So previously in my professional experience, I was working for a law firm, and I was the HR director for that organization. I have not gone to law school. I have no legal training other than what is required of a human resources professional. And in this one situation, I had an employee approach me with concern. They'd seen a brand new employee visibly upset, and they were able to discern they had trouble completing a task that they'd been assigned by their supervisor.
Mhm.
So, really kind of jumping into action, I reached out to the supervisor to let them know that this is a situation kind of unfolding as we speak. I went and just touched base with that employee who, yes, was visibly upset, then was probably relieved that someone came to just show that they cared and in the moment and was there for support. And I was able to say, hey, we're going to be here for you. But of course, I can't give anyone any kind of legal instruction. So I couldn't do the supportive tasks that that person needed in the moment. I went back to the supervising attorney and in that follow-up conversation said, okay, this is exactly what's happening. And you really need to check in with this employee. Their response in that moment was, I don't have time. I can't do that. You have to deal with it.
Mm.
Again, that's not something in any company, whether it is the legal, financial, whatever industry that is not an HR responsibility. That's a leadership responsibility. And in that moment, ownership of the communication didn't happen. So unfortunately, this employee left the company not long after this took place. And
Mhm.
a lot of us can sit here and hear the story and say, oh my gosh, that's awful. I would not ever do that as a leader.
Mhm.
How could that leader have thought that was the right thing to do? And it is very easy to hear something and know what is kind of inherently wrong about it. But when we're in the moment and these things are unfolding in real time,
Yeah,
it's not that easy all the
yeah,
time. The recognition of when we do need to own communication is that can be really challenging. That is really where that training and support in the leadership it has clearly been missing. And the firm I was working for did not necessarily value the leadership skills that really should have been cultivated and felt that HR was responsible for all of that.
Wow. That's, oh, I hope she's off on a better start or better company. And I'm glad you were there for her, but that's terrible. I'm taking this very deeply and really thinking through the times I know that I probably could have stepped in, had better communication, but like you said, in the moment, I'm so busy. I'm trying to do other things, and then when it's time maybe to even say something, I haven't put a lot of thought into it, and then it comes out all wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? That's okay.
Mhm.
HR professionals can get a little bit scared about saying the wrong thing because
Yes, yes,
sometimes saying the wrong thing can actually be a little expensive, right?
yes, yes.
But not saying anything as a leader is much, much, much more commonly a
Mm,
really bad thing. And it's
mm,
not just in difficult conversations. This didn't have to be a difficult event, it didn't have to be a difficult conversation. What could have happened prior to this event happening is the supervisor in the very first week with that new employee and a one-on-one could have just said, hey, when you need support, how am I going to know?
mhm,
When you need support, what does it usually look like? What do
mhm,
you value from your supervisor?
mhm,
Those are easy questions. That's not a difficult conversation. In fact, that is typically a really positive kind of conversation. It builds trust, it builds rapport, it is really preparing your team member to be probably a very high producing employee.
right, right. And help save you time in the long run, like if that
Exactly.
lady is there.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, just opening up for that, like that simple questions. Those questions were really powerful. Hmm.
And they're typically really taken for granted.
Hmm.
Do I have to ask every person on my team those exact questions? No. But what happens when I don't ask those kinds of questions? When I don't take ownership in that kind of communication, what is then going to unfold?
Hmm.
Uncertainty, miscommunication, an employee feeling that they are not supported,
Hmm.
and all of those things really contribute to an environment that is the opposite of psychologically safe.
Right, right. And do you have any suggestions for that employee that is not feeling like they're supported? Anything, what can that employee do or say?
Certainly, and a leader, of course, needs to own communication from the very start to the very finish.
Mhm,
But each employee does certainly have their own ownership to communication as well. And
mhm,
in a situation that feels really tricky, they have a couple of different options. One of those options is to take a partner, is to be vulnerable and say, I have a challenge that I need support with. Owning our challenges, naming them can be really tough. But having grace for ourselves in those situations are really only going to help us.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, so finding some other support, an ally to talk through and naming the challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah, and getting the
Yeah,
support you need from someplace.
exactly. If it cannot be your leader that you get
Mhm.
your support from, find where you can get that support from.
Right, right. There's lots
And
of
if you
resources.
right, exactly, there's lots of resources. At the
Right.
end of the day, if you feel like you can't find support in any avenue, you're probably not in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully there's not, I mean, companies are seeing more and more how important the leader is. I think the manager is one of the most important people that have influence over the employees. And so I hope that these managers really take that into consideration, the impact that they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
About 70% of the US workforce
right.
says they will or have left a job because of a leader.
Because of a leader, their direct manager, 70%.
Because of 70%, yeah. And on the flip side of that, companies that really value training for their leadership and prioritizing communication are about 150% time, or 150 times more profitable.
Wow.
There's a really
big difference.
there's a really big difference, and it's pretty tangible when you look at the details in that way of why communication and leadership is a must do. It's a must own, and it's not in the big grand moments of leadership. It's in the micro moments. It is in the everyday.
Oh, every day. And so what would I like to segue and just end off with this last final question? What is that one leadership golden takeaway out of everything you said, which was so valuable, that you want people to remember?
Yes. My golden takeaway is something that I use regularly as a leader. It is, if you see something, say something. That's owning communication. That's recognizing when communication should happen, and that's actually following through with that communication.
And doing something about it versus run away from it, avoid it. It doesn't usually, or at least if you're going to take the time to think through it, but eventually address it when the time is right. You have to make sure the timing is really important.
Exactly. Timing is very important. And again, not just in difficult conversations, but also in recognition and celebrations, in recognizing that someone is going through a moment of healing and supporting them in that.
Communication is really about connection, just making, having those touch points of connection with others.
It is. Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love it, Kaylee. That was powerful, relatable, and I trust that the audience got their golden takeaway so they can implement right away and make a difference in their communities. Thank you so much, Kaylee.
Thank you so much, and thank you all.
Thank you. It was super fun. Thank you, audience, for listening. I trust that you are well. You're going to do the thing. You're going to be that leader out there. Speak in flow, even when it's challenging. Make those connections. Remember, anytime you do communicate, it is all about connection and also making a difference in the world. So until next time, I'm your sister in flow. Take care. Much love. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Are you curious on how you measure up with your ability to speak in flow? Come grab my free self-assessment at https://speakinflow.com/assessment. And I'll see you on the other side.